Hey guys, it's Max. Market's been closed here on Monday afternoon, about an hour, about an hour and 15 minutes actually. Let's do a little end of the day Defiance update and see how these funds finished up. Now, I got a comment from somebody that said my spreadsheet's not clear enough. And I'm trying to think what I'm going to do here. Maybe let's try that. All right, so let's look at these Defiance funds. So JEPY, these guys sold the 54.50 strike for 17 bucks. It expired out of the money, so they bought it back for zero, or they didn't have to buy it back. So they made the full 17 points, which equals, because they had 234 contracts, so that adds up, and you make 17 points on 234 contracts. It's nearly $400,000. That takes these guys to a 51 cent a share positive earnings on the month. That's incredible. And that makes the dividend estimate 80 cents on the month. Now, earlier in the day, I need to correct something. Let's go to the SPX chart. This is the chart that I chart JEPY's option strategy on. Earlier in the day, I said that they sold this option and it did not have a yellow portion of the box. The boxes are made of green and yellow. The profit boxes are. Yellow is the out of the money portion of the box. Green is the in the money portion of the box, or the green represents the intrinsic value of the option. Yellow represents the extrinsic value of the option. It's important to keep them separate. Well, it looks like they didn't have any extrinsic this morning. Well, I looked back, I checked the data, and I had made an error. Maybe they had made an error. I don't know. Someone made an error. So what it actually turns out is, I think it's just a typo. Instead of selling this option for 12 bucks, they sold it for 17. So when you do the math on that, the day's already passed, but I'm just trying to update it for posterity, for the sake of posterity. So the line needs to go from the break even is the strike price. So 54.50. So 17 points is the option price. So what's 17 minus 54.50? What is that going to be? 54.40, 54.33. So I need to get this line, and I need to go down here to 54.33. They did not get a whole lot of extrinsic. We can say that, but they did get a little some, which is good. That's the whole idea, is to capture extrinsic. I thought it was kind of bizarre they did that, but even if you zoom way in, you have to zoom way in to really see the extrinsic. All right, finally got that one straightened up. Now let's look at NDX. This is triple QI. They trade NDX options. Profit box did not go over far enough, but you could see they closed well above it. So that's the full profit. Now let's look at this on the spreadsheet. Let's see what happened numerically. They sold 130 contracts at the 19,690 level, 76 points. So that's the break even, 19,614. It expired out of the money, which means full profit for these guys. They made nearly $1 million. Takes them to 69 cents a share on the month. And watch this. You guys, do I have any baseball players out there? I'm going to have to zoom out for this demo. Okay, so if you're playing baseball and the pitcher's throwing a no-hitter, no one talks about it, right? Because you don't want to jinx the pitcher, right? Well, look where my cursor's pointing. See how it's all one color? This is the high yield equivalent of a no-hitter. So here, I'll knock on wood. All right, let's go to IWMY. They trade Russell options. So check out the spreadsheet first. Okay, I'll go back to the bigger so it's easier to see. All right, these guys sold 766 options at the 2010 level for $11.60. So 2010 minus 1160 is that number. That's the break even. They finished above all the numbers. No, it was out of the money, so they finished above the strike price. Nice job, guys. They made $888,000. They're down 15 cents a share on the month. These guys have had a rough month and are getting beat up pretty good. It's like they're taking all the losses that the other funds aren't getting. I believe JEPY is pitching a no-hitter too. Yeah. JEPY and Triple QI are throwing shutouts. They're throwing no-hitters right now. So nice to see. All right, then on to the dividend estimate on IWMY is 87 cents. So let's look at the 5-minute max spreadsheet. It's a little bit more legible because Corey made it instead of Max. Zoomed in. So now let me explain one thing. On USOI, this option doesn't expire till Wednesday, so it's still open. So that is their current profit and loss, but it's not their final profit and loss. Anyway, so it's going to keep saying 34,000 there until Wednesday. Then it'll switch when they do a new option to the new amount. I just don't know how to make it act like the other ones. But in any event, they're going for 34,000. They sold the 77 strike. Okay, so the break even's at 75.29. So let's look at USO. So we want USO to be above 77 because they sold the 77 strike put. So let's see if it is above 77. And sure enough, it's melting up too. Now they have a few more days to sweat it out. That's why this profit box is longer. I drew it where it goes out till Wednesday, but if they stay above 77 until Wednesday, they'll realize that entire dollar amount. All right, let's look at TLT since this is the Defiance update. Of course, Tress trades the TLT. I'm not big on the zoomed in myself, but I want to make sure you guys can see it. I was just trying to zoom out to get some perspective. On this fund, we want volatility. We want prices to be outside of these. These are no profit boxes or negative profit boxes or valleys of death, whatever. But anyway, so today the market for TLT fell a little bit, and they were almost outside of the box on Friday. They were rallying. They got almost outside of it, and then boom, they fell back in. All right, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't really talk about SPY-T that much. SPY-T, set it and forget it. You don't need to worry about SPY-T. Okay, one thing I do want to say on SPY-T real fast for my SPY-T friends, because this is not all right, do you remember my true yield video where I go back and I index everything to the JP Morgan standard? And then based on that, I can extrapolate true yields for these other funds like Triple QI. Their true yield was like 8 or 9%. If it was managed as conservatively as JP Morgan's, as JEPQ, if it was managed like that, in other words, if they held some of the distribution back, what would this really, what do you really have left over? Okay. Well, on SPY-T, I kind of glossed over it, but I said, basically you don't have to worry about it on this one. But even SPY-T, any fund, even SCHD, any fund that pays a dividend has NAV decay or depletion or whatever you want to call it, because the dividend comes out, and the dividend is the depletion. It's like in scary movies whenever they say that, the call's coming from inside the house. That's the way it is with decay, depletion, whatever you want to call it. That's just the way it works. The dividend creates it. So the bigger the dividend is, the more decay, depletion, whatever you want to call it, they have, right? All right. Well, on SPY-T, it'd be disingenuous to say, I love this one, as you guys know, and I think it's just set it and forget it. I just said that. But it'd be disingenuous to think that it makes 20% being on the same standard to JP Morgan. As being as conservatively managed as them. So I put a pencil and a piece of paper to it, and their true yield for SPY-T is 13%. So even on SPY-T, theoretically, to be as conservative as JP Morgan is, which is pretty damn conservative, according to the way I do it, you do your own research for you, but according to my metrics and the things that I look at and the way I measure risk, you should even with SPY T, you should be putting about a third of it back. So a third of 20% is about 7%, right? So you take 7 minus 20, you get 13, right? So the true yield's about 13. That's still really damn good. Think about it. Bonds pay 5%. This pays 1.5 times, the free rate of money. That's incredible. That's, that's really good. Now, having said it, if you're somebody that just wants to live off it and you don't want to reinvest, yes, definitely get SPY T rather than triple QI, because you're going to be a lot more likely to be able to live off of SPY T than triple QI without having to do any, management yourself. So SPY T is definitely good, but let's just be fair with it. Its true yield on it's 13, 14%, something like that. Does that sound good? Do you guys disagree with that? I know I got some pushback on the true yield of triple QI being 8% because it does better than that. But I'm just saying, if it were managed as conservatively as JP Morgan, because the reason I keep saying that is the JP Morgan funds they don't have much depletion, decay, whatever types of problems those are, because they're managed so damn conservatively. So that's why I'm applying the JP Morgan standard to these other ones and then backing out the numbers so we can put a true, apples to apples comparison on there. So, so of the Defiance funds, of the ones I've made numbers on, SPY T is definitely the highest. I haven't made a true yield on USO. Maybe I need to do that. I'll do that soon. Maybe that'll be in my next video. We need to get a true yield out on USO. And then we'll see how close it is to what the true yield ends up being. For instance, that's what I meant on triple QI. The true yield's 8%. It doesn't have anything to do with how it does. It's how it's constructed. Okay. Well, so what we want to look at is how it's actually done in real life. And what do we look at to judge how it's done? Total return. Okay. So what's its total return? What, 12 or is it? Let's look real quick. I think it's either 12 or 15% on triple QI at this point. I'm going to compare it with, I don't know, we'll compare it with JEPI. Not a fair comparison. One's NASDAQ, one's S&P. JPI just hasn't been doing great lately for some reason. Oh, well, actually, I know what the reason is. They concentrate, their underlyings have more value stocks in them, whereas JEPQ they focus a little bit more of their underlyings towards growth. So JEPY will have its day in the sun too sometime, hopefully. All right. 12.69%. Okay. So the real yield, what it really is, the real true yield is 12.69% so far. It changes every day, but I'm still standing by the true yield number that I make is 8%. That's what you should budget. And if it comes out to be more, if you budget 8%, return, and it comes out to be 15, well, that's great, but it's better than if it happens the other way around. JP Morgan has definitely done a great job with JEPI and JEPQ. And so that's how I came up with this metric. I've made a video on it. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And I plan to make a lot more content on true yield in the future. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you like this update, and I will talk to you later.